Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, and we are doing Breaches of the Week. And this is the very first Breaches of the Week of the new year. Now, if you're a longtime listener or follower of mine, you know every Sunday that I do these, and the last couple of breaches haven't been discussed. In other words, the last couple of Sundays, I've done the top breaches of 2024, predictions for 2025, in terms of cybersecurity and data breaches and all of that. But one of the reasons why I do it in this way, and I've been doing it this way for years, is quite frankly, everybody declares data breaches over the holidays. And so by virtue of that, there is just so much to go through. And so let's catch up from the end of December through the beginning of the new year, because quite frankly, we've got a lot to do. And as always, I want to thank the following people that sent me a lot of this. And that would be Bert Irving, Sander Slidenerink, and Saifiz Shufer. So thank you very much for that. And with that, let's dive right in and start with Richmond University Medical Center, because they basically are in Staten Island, New York, and they suffered a significant disruption in May of 2023. Yes, we're talking about them now in 2025, and it took them several weeks to restore services, and the forensic investigation showed that their basically health record systems were compromised, but it was later determined that other files may have been accessed as well. This is impacting more than 670,000 people, and they're just reporting on it at the end of December, beginning of January 2025 from 2023. Never a good look. The fines will be coming, so heads up if you use them on Staten Island. Moving on. I want to give you an update on the Rhode Island Bridges, or RI Bridges, data breach. I mentioned this basically a few weeks ago on Breaches of the Week. Now, BrainCipher is the cyber criminal group that essentially has claimed responsibility for this, and essentially they are now starting to post this information on the dark web, basically after these guys negotiated with Deloitte, which is the company that maintains this. And so by virtue of that, we are starting to see data leaks of that. So if you use essentially the health and benefits programs from the state of Rhode Island via the RI Bridges platform, heads up to you, Rhode Islanders. Moving on, let's talk about Wonder CPA. Interesting name. On December 12th, they filed with Maine after an unauthorized party gained access to their network, and they said sensitive information was hit, names, social security numbers, dates of birth, and addresses. Wonder CPA is sending out letters to those impacted. Pretty cool name for CPA. Not a big fan of data breaches. Moving on, let's talk about Volkswagen. Now, for the record, I did an independent video on this one, basically focusing on Volkswagen, but talking about all cars in general. But because it's a data breach, it's here too as well, just in much smaller form. So with that, let's talk about specifically what happened to Volkswagen this past week or so. A failure to properly protect access to its AWS or Amazon Web Services environment is one of the root causes of this massive leak. And interestingly enough, it's not one of my finalies because I did it before. And that's according essentially to a presentation on the incident that essentially the Chaos Computer Club, or Triple C, did on December 27th. Now, Volkswagen apparently violated its own terms of services as well as regulatory requirements, including GDPR, because they're based in Germany, by not truncating or encrypting sensitive customer data on more than 15 million enrolled vehicles. Volkswagen, for the record, is worth about 370 billion as a market cap, and they're one of the largest automotive producers in the world. They own several brands, including Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, Bugatti, and a whole bunch of others. So the data that VW collected included a wide range of information, including user data such as names, email addresses, birth dates, physical addresses, car data such as VIN, basically the model, the year, full user ID, in addition to EV data points such as odometer, battery temp, battery status, charging status, and warning light data. Again, I did a much deeper dive into it a few days ago, but heads up to you if you drive a Volkswagen or an Audi or any one of their other brands that are under the Volkswagen umbrella. Moving on, I want to give you an update on Cisco. Yes, the large infrastructure provider. Now, Cisco has basically confirmed the authenticity of basically their data breach after a second leak came out. Now, if you recall, the attackers known as Intel Broker announced on October 14, that basically they had breached Cisco's systems, obtained source code, certificates, credentials, confidential document encryption keys, and a whole bunch of other type of information. And they originally claimed to have obtained 800 gigabytes, but then later upped that to 4.5 terabytes taken from Cisco's Dev Hub environment. And in mid-December, they basically made available 3 gigabytes of that data. And on Christmas Day, which prompted Cisco to basically confirm this, they leaked another batch of files, so totaling more than 4 gig have been released of what they're claiming is 4.5 terabyte, but enough to prove it, and Cisco declared it. So here we are. Heads up to you if you have anything to do with Cisco, whether it's purchasing or employment. Moving on, let's go to our mini segment simply entitled, if you just spent money on cybersecurity, you wouldn't be getting sued, you wouldn't be losing your reputation, and I definitely wouldn't be talking about you here on Breaches of the Week. And with that, let's start with Tampa General Hospital, because they just agreed to pay $6.8 million as part of a class action settlement to resolve claims that they failed to protect their patients during a data breach. Now, the Tampa General Hospital settlement basically benefits individuals from whom Florida Health Sciences Center had notified that their personal information may have been compromised between May 12th of 2023 through May 30th of that year as well. So heads up to you if you use Tampa General Hospital and were notified. You're going to put cheese on that burger sooner than later. Moving on, Crossbreed Holsters. These are holsters for firearms. Excuse me. They just agreed to pay an amazing $195,000 in a class action lawsuit settlement to resolve claims that they failed to prevent a data breach in 2022. This will benefit anybody that was basically notified of this data breach that was discovered on December 5th of 2022. The wheels of justice, for the record, turn slowly, as does civil litigation. But heads up to you, if you've bought your holsters from Crossbreed Holsters, you may be entitled to compensation. Moving on, let's talk about VisionWorks, based out of San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas. A class action lawsuit has been filed against them after a data breach impacted nearly 40,000 customers that they have nationwide, not just in San Antonio. Now, the retailer offers eye exams and sells prescription eyewear and contact lenses across more than 700 stores in the entire United States. The lawsuit was filed on December 23rd in federal court in Texas. So we'll see what happens, but if you bought your pair of glasses or contacts or whatever from VisionWorks, you may be entitled eventually to compensation as well. Moving on, the SynFed Federal, man, I can't speak today. The SynFed Federal Credit Union, that's a mouthful actually. Anyway, they just agreed to pay $700,000 to basically resolve claims of their class action due to a 2023 data breach that compromised their customer information. Now, SynFed, I'm just going to call them that, the settlement benefits individuals whose private information basically was compromised between September 22nd through the 25th of 2023. Odds are you might have been notified, but heads up, if you use SynFed for all your credit union needs, might as well check in. Moving on, let's talk about Acumen. That's Acumen with a K, not a C. They're a radiology and oncology service provider. They apparently negligently failed to properly secure, safeguard, and adequately destroy the health and personal data of its outpatient radiology and cancer patients, and that's according to a $5 million class action lawsuit. Now, Gina Letizio of Hampton, New Hampshire, brought the lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, basically on behalf of herself and other members of the class. Now, the plaintiffs allege that gaps and missteps with data security obviously allowed an attacker to get in, and that was basically via their website between October 12th of 2023, or rather on October 12th of 2023. That's according to the lawsuit that was filed on December 27th of 2024, about a week ago or so. Moving on. Forward Bank, they just agreed to pay $1.185 million as part of a settlement for their class action regarding their 2023 data breach as well. The benefits individuals who received a notification from Forward Bank informing them that they may have had their data breached on or around September 6th of 2023. So heads up, Forward Bank customers, you're getting paid too. Moving on, Byte Federal, or BYTE. They're basically facing a series of multi-million-dollar class action complaints in federal court in Tampa, basically over the harm that they caused the, quote, preventable data breach of its inadequately protected computer network. So here we are. Now, this case dates back to November 18, when Byte detected suspicious activity on its computer network, which then indicated a data breach according to the complaint. Byte determined that cyber criminals had infiltrated its secure computer environment and potentially accessing copied files containing the sensitive information of roughly 58,000 people. So obviously not a good look, but heads up if your data is with Byte Federal. Moving on. West End Dental, a federal lawsuit filed on December 23rd of last year by Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, alleges that Western Dental, which operates in 6 locations in Indianapolis and Lafayette, Indiana, was aware that a ransomware attack occurred on its offices in October of 2020, but didn't really conduct forensics investigations, didn't really tell anybody. Here we are, right? Negligence at its core, that is really negative intent. So West End allegedly told the patient requesting x-ray copies that it no longer had it because, quote, someone hacked into our systems, end quote. So apparently they just found out when they spilled the beans to a patient. Now, Indiana's lawsuit alleges that West End violated HIPAA and state data security and breached laws. And if the lawsuit and accusations by the Attorney General of the state of Indiana are correct, yeah, they absolutely did. Obviously, I'll keep you up to date here if they did indeed. And finally, in our mini segment, we've got to talk about Apple. Yes, the behemoth. Now, Apple has now agreed to pay a $95 million settlement. Now, this resolution addresses allegations that its voice-activated assistant Siri inadvertently recorded users' private conversations without consent over a decade-long period. That's right. Basically, that's what they were doing. Now, Apple has vehemently denied this and any wrongdoing in court and has since basically settled this case. Now, the settlement, pending judicial approval, could see Apple product owners receiving compensation for up to 5 Siri-enabled devices. Remember, this is over 10 years and nobody keeps an iPhone for more than like 1 or 2. They're pretty rabid fans. So up to 5 Siri-enabled devices, providing that they attest under oath to accidental activations during confidential confirmations. Amid speculation around Apple's long-awaited Vision Pro device ceasing production, I literally did a video on VR headsets like 2 days ago. This basically has obviously been a turbulent few months for Apple, but quite frankly, if they're violating essentially your private conversations for whatever reason, not a good sign. Again, Apple denies it, but Apple's paying. Take that for what it's worth. And so that was our mini segment. If any of these companies, including Apple of all things, had just spent more on cybersecurity or maybe improved Siri, they wouldn't be getting sued, they wouldn't be losing their reputation, and I definitely wouldn't be talking about them here. And with that, let's move on to all the other regular breaches we have, because there are a ton of them in the last couple of weeks. Rivers Casino Philadelphia on December 30th, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party accessed confidential information in their possession. In this notice, Rivers Casino explains that an unauthorized party was able to access consumer-sensitive information. We're talking names, social security numbers, and bank account information. Upon completing its investigation, Rivers Casino is sending out letters as well. So if you've been gambling at Rivers Casino Philadelphia, heads up to you, or if you work there as well. Moving on, Ascension Health. On December 20th, they filed with Maine after basically saying an attack compromised the personal information of 5.6 million individuals, mostly patients, obviously. Now, according to Ascension, the incident occurred on February 29 of 2024, but was detected on May 8th, and the compromised data is insurance information, names, social security numbers, and payment details. And the incident occurred, quote, an employee accidentally downloaded a malicious file disguised as legitimate. An honest mistake, end quote. And honestly, yeah, that's all it takes. Ascension Health, heads up to your patients. Moving on, American Addiction Centers, or AAC, they have notified 422,424 individuals that their personal information was stolen in a cyber attack attributed to the Resita criminal or ransomware gang. The incident was discovered on December 26th of last year, and the notification letter basically said that names, social security numbers, and health insurance information were impacted. AAC is offering 12 months of credit monitoring, so go get your credit monitoring on if you use American Addiction Centers for hopefully you kicking the addictions, and I honestly really hope you do. Moving on. Cannabis operator Stizzy, that's Stizzy with 3 eyes, they announced this week that a cybercrime group accessed some retail customer data when their point of sale vendor experienced a security breach on or around October 10th through November 10th of last year. Now, identifying details include government-issued IDs, such as names, address, dates of birth, signatures, all that kind of stuff. They're saying they were accessed, but not all data was shared by every customer. Retail data transactions transactions were disclosed as well. So this impacted multiple locations that they've got. So the first one is Stizzy Alameda on Webster in Alameda, California, Stizzy Mission in the Mission District in San Francisco, Stizzy Modesto, obviously in Modesto, and Stizzy Union Square, also in San Francisco as well. So if you're buying your weed from Stizzy, others know that you're doing it. Moving on. Rutherford County Schools, Tennessee. This is actually an update. Now, in mid-December, an auction page by Reseda was posted on the dark web asking for 20 Bitcoin, or about $2 million at that time, in exchange for stolen Rutherford County Schools information. Now, nobody paid for this exclusivity, so the attackers shared the data publicly, and here we are. It included social security cards or copies of it, so heads up to you if you've got a student or you're a teacher or something to do with Rutherford County Schools, state of Tennessee. Moving on, let's head over to Illinois and talk about the IDHS. And for the record, it is Illinois, not Illinois. Now, that is the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, on April 25th, the Department of Health and Human Services experienced a privacy breach. Now, an outside entity, through a phishing campaign, gained access to multiple employee accounts and files associated with said accounts. We are talking about the social security numbers of 4,701 consumers and 3 employees. Now, on top of this, public assistant account information such as name, public assistant account number, and some combination of address, date of birth, Illinois State Board of Education Student Information System ID number, recipient identification number, and cell phone number was accessed for 1,118,993 customers. That did not include social security numbers, for the record. On October 31st, IDHS sent written notifications to 2,918 consumers whose social security numbers were accessed. The remaining 1,783 individuals will be considered notified via media release and website posting because IDHS does not have a current address on file. On November 21, 2024, IDHS also sent notices to 3 employees whose social security numbers were accessed. So heads up to you if you're in the Illinois, not Illinois, basically Department of Human Services ecosystem. Moving on. Let's talk about Chrome browser extensions. A whole bunch of them, apparently. Now, hackers have compromised several different companies' Chrome browser extensions in a series of intrusions dating back to mid-December 2024, according to one of the victims and experts who has examined the campaign. Now, among the victims was the California-based Cyberhaven. They're a data protection company that confirmed the breach in a statement to Reuters. So, which extensions were hit? I'm still trying to find that list for the record, but here is what we know. Now, in the case specifically of Cyberhaven, the Chrome extension that they use to help their company monitor and secure their customers' data flowing across the web-based applications was compromised, meaning there's probably coding in there. Now, other affected extensions that have been caught included those related to artificial intelligence and also virtual private networks as well. I personally don't run any extensions in Chrome, or I use Brave because it strips trackers, all that kind of stuff, and I urge you to do the same. Moving on, let's talk about Zagg. Zagg. Now, anyway, they filed with Maine after discovering that a vulnerability in FreshClick, an application created by BigCommerce and used by Zagg, was compromised. Now, in this notice, Zagg explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access their customers' or consumers' sensitive information, names, addresses, and payment card info was hit. Zagg has now sending out notifications as well. Moving on. Indiana University Health on December 17, they basically issued a press release disclosing that the organization recently experienced an email-related data breach. Now, in this notice, IU Health explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access sensitive information. We're talking names, addresses, ages, medical record numbers, and medical information. IU, or Indiana University Health, is sending out notices as well. Moving on. In-Home Attendant Services on December 20th, they filed with Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights after discovering that confidential access was hit in their infrastructure. Now, In-Home Attendant Services said that the information that was hit included names, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, financial account information, medical information, health insurance information, and dates of birth. In-Home Attendant Services, is sending out notices as well. Moving on, Community Alliance Inc. basically they filed with Taxachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party gained access to portions of their company's system. Consumer information was hit once again. We're talking names, address, dates of birth, birth certificates, that's awesome, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, financial information, medical information, health insurance information, online account credentials, electronic digital signatures, and if you've even looked cross-eyed at Community Alliance, it got hit. They are sending out notices as well. Moving on. Northwest Asthma and Allergy Center on December 12th. They also filed with Office of Civil Rights, Health and Human Services. Unauthorized party gained access to their network. Sensitive information is the normal roundup you'd know for healthcare: names, birth dates, social security numbers, insurance carriers, treatment dates, test results, treatment plans, and contact information. Northwest Asthma and Allergy are sending letters out as well. Moving on. CR&R Environmental Services. They filed with Maine after discovering an unauthorized party got into their infrastructure. They basically said sensitive information was hit. I do not have a listing of that, but CR&R Environmental Services is sending out notices as well. Moving on, Lexington Diagnostic Center on December 24th. They filed with Health and Human Services, Office of Civil Rights, and basically said they got hit. Sensitive information includes what you'd expect: names, basically names, address, phone numbers, dates of birth, social security, and medical info as well. Lexington Diagnostic Center is sending out notifications also. Modern Automotive Network, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party was able to access their systems as well. Sensitive information was hit. I do not have a listing of that, but Modern Automotive began sending out letters as well. I'm guessing they're, I don't know, fixing your car? Mechanic? I'm not sure. Moving on, DAP or DAP Health, which is apparently a subsidiary of Boragio Health. Basically, they filed with California after discovering an unauthorized party was able to access their email system. And we are talking names, social security numbers, addresses, medical information, health insurance information, financial account information, and vehicle information as well. DAP Health or DAP Health is sending out info also. Moving on, American Associated Pharmacies on December 23, they filed with Massachusetts after basically an unauthorized party gained access to portions of their network. AAP explained sensitive information was accessed, including names, social security numbers, and health insurance information, and they are sending out notifications as well. Moving on, Senior Citizens Inc. Yes, apparently our seniors have now incorporated themselves and are fighting back. I'm not sure, but either way, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party gained access to their network as well. Consumer sensitive information, including names and social security numbers, is caught up in this, and senior citizens are sending out notifications, specifically the corporation that they have founded. So heads up to you, if you're a senior citizen, you probably belong to that company. I don't know. Moving on, Crown Mortgage Company on December 20, they also filed with Massachusetts after unauthorized access into their infrastructure, and names and social security numbers is what I know has been hit, as they are declaring that, and Crown Mortgage is sending out notices as well. Moving on, and I told you there's a ton of breaches at the end of the year. Saratoga Casino, because everybody's like on Christmas or New Year's or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate, right? So nobody's paying attention. But Saratoga Casino Hotel knows that, because apparently there's a casino and a hotel in Saratoga, and they just named it Saratoga. So on December 30th, they filed with the Attorney General of Maine after discovering an unauthorized party got access into their network, and they explained sensitive information was hit. Names, social security numbers, and driver's license, and Saratoga Casino Hotel are sending out notices as well. So heads up, you gamblers. Moving on, Arixa Capital Advisors on December 27, they filed with Massachusetts after unauthorized access into their network. I know names and social security numbers were hit. Don't know anything else, but Arixa is sending out notices. BCM1 Inc. They basically filed with Massachusetts after being a victim of a cyber attack. Don't know what kind, but BCM1 explained an unauthorized party was able to access sensitive information. I do not have a listing, but BCM1 is sending out notifications as well. Youth Eastside Services on December 27th, they filed with Health and Human Services after basically an unauthorized person got into their network as well. Sensitive information was hit, including names, dates of birth, address, demographic information, medical information, and insurance information. Youth Eastside Services is sending out notices also. Moving on, Tycon Medical Systems on December 30th, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering that basically information in their possession was accessed. Sensitive information for consumers was hit. I do not have a listing, but Tycon is sending out notifications. Woo, it has been a crazy couple of weeks. And finally, let's get to our finally, let's talk about the big one, the United States Treasury Department, because the U.S. Department of Treasury alerted lawmakers on December 30th that Chinese state-backed threat actors were able to compromise its systems and steal data from workstations earlier in December of 2024. Because of an APT, or Advanced Persistent Threat Group, is suspected to be behind this, it is being treated as a major cybersecurity incident, and that is according to the disclosure letter from the Treasury Department. Now, the letter said to the chairman and ranking member of the Senate subcommittee that oversees the agency that basically we've got problems. And so let's talk about what happened here, because adversaries apparently broke into the Treasury Department through third-party cybersecurity vendor known as BeyondTrust and I quote, gained access to a remote key used by the vendors to secure a cloud-based service used to remotely provide technical support for Treasury departmental offices and users. With access to the stolen key, the threat actor was able to override the service's security, remotely access certain Treasury DO or department office user workstations, and access certain unclassified documents maintained by those users. End quote. Now, BeyondTrust has more than 20,000 customers across more than 100 countries who use its privileged remote access tools, according to its website, which also states the company is being used about beyond 75% or roughly 75% of Fortune 100. In other words, 75 out of 100 Fortune 100s are using BeyondTrust, according to them. BeyondTrust also told the Treasury Department about the issue on December 8th. The department, along with the CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and the FBI, investigated the compromise according to the letter. Now, a BeyondTrust advisory said that the company was alerted on December 5th to a compromised API key, which was immediately revoked. Now, impacted customers have already been notified, and the company is working with them on remediation. This is, again, according to BeyondTrust. So, focusing back on the Treasury, this is pretty insane, because the revelation that essentially Beijing was able to basically strike right at the heart of America's federal capitalist system itself comes as the federal government continues to grapple with the sprawling and coordinated Chinese-backed cyber attacks against telecommunication companies in the U.S. I have done multiple segments on Volt Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, and basically Chinese hacking efforts over literally years for this, going all the way back to Obama when we knew they hacked the White House under the Obama administration. And I don't know why we just pass this off as not actual warfare simply because it's online. So with that, once inside they got into the Treasury, or rather, once inside the Treasury Department, the attackers from groups including Salt Typhoon, as I just mentioned, access call data and text messages of an unknown number of Americans. So far, Chinese hacking groups have been discovered inside at least 9 telecom networks in the United States. Again, I've done tons of segments on those prior to this. While investigations into the U.S. Treasury breach are ongoing, these basically Chinese actors and acts of espionage are most certainly going to require some interesting diplomacy here. Now, this could be basically really difficult. Again, we have an outgoing administration. The Biden administration is winding down. We have a new incoming administration. Obviously, President-elect Trump has had different stances over the years on China, obviously different than Biden in some respects. Sometimes they align. In some instances, China is basically held up by soon-to-be President Trump as, evil, wrong, whatever it is. And sometimes he praises their leader and actually invited them to his inauguration. So the point is that I don't necessarily think this is going away anytime soon in terms of their hacking and quite frankly, tariffs and sanctions. I don't necessarily know if those are going to work against it. I'm not an economics expert, so I'm not going to get into that. I don't care what you believe on that. That's not my point here. But the point is that this is going to be very dicey, and it's going to require very, I think, sophisticated diplomacy, because I don't think China's going to stop anytime soon. So this breach also shows that cybersecurity vendors continue to be a favorite target of state threat actors. We've seen SolarWinds, we've seen Byte, we've seen a whole bunch be compromised over the years, and so that's going to continue to basically continue. Now, for the record, it's also unclear whether the state-sponsored Chinese actors are able to crack the application secrets or the cryptographic key, but we know they were leveraging that key for authentication to get into the Treasury Department. So we'll see what happens there, but It was an absolutely crazy week. Again, I don't think Chinese intelligence or the Chinese cyber army or anything related to Chinese espionage operations online are going to stop anytime soon. And I really hope, and I really hope that, and wish the best of luck to both President Biden and President Trump in dealing with this. And it's very soon to be Trump's mess. So we'll see what happens. But either way, those were your breaches of the week. Were you affected? Yeah, you probably were, but let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well, also on Blue Sky and Mastodon. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.